Hi, my name is Carl Killian, and welcome to the Unemployed Game Designers vlog for February 22nd, 2011. Now I'd like to talk to you a bit about massively multiplayer online games, MMOs, and just sort of my thoughts about them. Now, I'm not an MMO player by nature. I lean more towards console games, and I believe the reason for that is I share a complaint many other players of MMOs have. The lack of importance that is felt by playing their character and through progressing through this world. Now, let me explain that for a sec. I believe games like World of Warcraft place an emphasis on progression, getting from point A to point B. The quest structure, which is another topic we can talk about in a little bit, very much is a carrot and the stick leading you from one point to another. And I'm not sure that that is necessarily the best design for an MMO. You see, when your goal in a game, your impetus to progress is to kill 10 boars or collect 10 boar hides and return with them, and then you see 20 other players doing the exact same thing, I think that hurts an MMO because you don't feel like you are your actions really matter. Like, yeah, you're getting the shopkeeper 20 boar hides, but so is everybody else. So why the hell are you doing this? I think that one thing that should be regarded in MMO design is other players' intrusiveness in your gameplay experience. Let me explain that for a sec. You are a part of this world. You want to have your actions carry weight. And I just explained this. If you see somebody else doing it right next to you, it brings them to question that. But in that same vein, like, a goal of massively multiplayer online games is to have the player feel like they are in a world that is living and breathing, that you can talk to anyone in this world and they will be there to discuss with you. Like, what I'm trying to resolve in part is my mentality that of a console gamer, a single player game player, who's trying to foist his perspective on what a game should be onto this model? I'm not sure if that's the case. I think that you have an opportunity to... the goal is to create a world in which your players can live and to make it living. I think games like World of Warcraft, by design, have some elements that are antithetical to that. And let me explain that for a minute. You have a progression where you are very much led along a narrow path. You are going from the boar, the tannery doing quests to get the boar hides, to the butcher, which is a little bit further down the town, going to the same area, killing 10 boars and bringing him the boar's meat. And then you go to the miller, who is maybe at the outskirts of town. And there's just this connect the dots sort of mentality to the quest progression from what I've played of WoW. I don't really think that is beneficial to it, even though you have the quest queue and you gain what are the advantages of what MMOs do well is you gain the sense of like being economical about your time. That is why you have the quest progression bar. You have 3 tasks lined up at once, but if you go to this one area, you can complete all 3 of them at once, bang them out, boom, boom, boom. But that goes back to the question of importance. Why should players care about helping the tanner and the miller and the the butcher and the baker and the candlestick maker. Here is... It's a tough question to wrestle with, because you are trying to create, as an MMO developer, a living, breathing world. But a game like World of Warcraft, and this is the reason I could not get into it, limits that progression, that exploration, that feeling like... I think one of the most entertaining things to do in a massive multiplayer game is enjoy the breadth and the size and the variety of the world. I booted up DC Universe Online, and I just spent a half hour to an hour flying around Gotham City, seeing all the landmarks, like, oh my god, there's Wayne Manor, there's the Bat Signal, and that was a lot of fun. And I think the means of progression, like empowering the player versus limiting them, is one way to continue to have player investment. And that's really what this topic is about. Player investment. You have difficulty trying to keep your players engaged in your world. That's understandable, and that's fine. I think that translates in the player's mind to, why does my role in this world matter? What am I ultimately doing with my time that is very precious to me? I think that as a developer, we should keep this question in mind, but try and translate it into how am I progressing through this world? And how does that make me feel special? Like, I was playing another MMO recently, the Battlestar Galactica Online MMO. And one one most clever things I saw that made the game's entertainment value exponentially higher, which is a very silly thing when you hear it, is it's a PC game, so you have your mouse, and they had a throttle for your spaceship, your Viper, if you're familiar with the license, to control your speed. And because of the core mechanic, that which you're doing 90% of the game is flying around, and that in itself is fun, I loved it. Like, I was sold, and it's definitely a game I'm going to revisit once I have some more free time. Combat felt good, exploration, momentum, movement, all felt right as I was flying my little Viper through outer space, my jet fighter, my space jet fighter. So maybe it's not necessarily a question of weight within the player's actions, WEIGHT, but sense of entertainment per second. Is it like, are you enjoying what you're doing the most of the time through the game? In World of Warcraft, most of that time is spent. It is by design meant to get you from point A to point B, to drag out the hours it takes to complete a task while fooling the player that they are being economical about their time with the quest queue. I think this is a poor design choice, and they're relying on addiction versus entertainment to have their game play be meaningful and engaging and ultimately something that is will cause players to come back to it. DC Universe Online, from what I've played of it, and Battlestar Galactica Online, both have taken these lessons, taken the positive aspects of having the players feel rewarded for being economic with their time by having both discovery of quests and quests that are can be tackled simultaneously. But they've also made sure that which you'll be doing most of the time, the combat and the movement through the game world, is entertaining and visceral. When your game, one of the Yahtzee said this best in regards to Final Fantasy 13, and I think this applies to World of Warcraft as well. When your game gets good 20 hours in, that's not a point in its favor. When you get that mount, and that's when the game really starts to get fun, I think that hurts your game as designed. You want to be able to fly over the world and see from a new perspective all these landscapes. All of these, you got the street view and you've got the bird's eye view. You want to be able to see like, oh my god, there's a battle going on down there, I want to join it. Or there is a landmark in the distance. This is what Oblivion did well. That I want to visit. And WoW's progression is such that it gives it too little too late, at least in my mind. Now, maybe from a marketing standpoint, from an economic, financial standpoint, it works for them. Clearly the numbers demonstrate that. But as a player, as someone trying to enter Azeroth, I cannot, and I am not interested in revisiting that world, whereas Metropolis and Gotham City and the space around Caprica and the 12 colonies of Battlestar Galactica, like those are areas I want to continue to explore. And part of that, I will freely admit, is the license. I'm interested in those. But I was interested in World of Warcraft as well. They hooked me with Warcraft 3. Blizzard was, up until that point in my mind, and even still today, to a lesser extent, and I may discuss this later in a later video, was a top-notch developer who put the highest quality into their games. World of Warcraft was sold to me as this game where, I remember seeing in CGW, Computer Gaming World, the magazine, screenshots where it was, you had your squad of orcs that you go around with your party, and it would be like an RPG online with your friends that you could do battle with other people, and in the Warcraft world. And while I want to explore that world, they do not give enough meaning and weight to, and this is getting onto a completely separate topic, and I apologize. I might not discuss it today just because we're running low on time. We have about 4 minutes left. You have the capacity to explore this world, but ultimately you don't care about the butcher, the candlestick maker in Azeroth. You care about Arthas. You care about Sylvanas. You care about these characters you grew with in the last game. You want to interact with them, but you can't until level 40, until hour 40, after you get your mount. And again, it might work for them, but from a player standpoint, trying to enter this world and wanting one thing and not getting it, I don't have the patience to stay with it. So when designing an MMO, I think it is vital to say, okay, from the get-go, it feels fun, it is engaging, and there is enough variety in the progression that, and the variety thing I think maybe WoW does well, there's enough variety in the progression that you are able to feel like you are growing as a character in this game. That's it for now for this week. Until next time, I'm Carl Killian. Thank you for joining me, and ready to believe you.